Photography is dead. This is something that I've thought for the past 2 years since the rise of short form content. I used to be a photographer and only take photos, but during the last 2 years, I've changed my entire content strategy and I really consider myself a filmmaker now. Now, I haven't taken that many photos in the last 2 years, but this camera, the Fujifilm X100VI, has completely changed that, and I started taking photos again. And it's really easy to see why if you've ever picked up one of these cameras. It's incredibly easy to use. The image quality is incredible. And best of all, thanks to the built-in film simulations by Fujifilm, I don't have to edit my photos anymore. I never thought that I would become a JPEG shooter, but here we are. Now, I recently went on a trip with the Fujifilm X100VI to Paris and Turkey, and I also had my R5C with me, which is what I'm shooting this video on right now. And I took all my videos on the Canon R5C, but I didn't take a single photo on the R5C, and it is a powerful photo camera. It takes the exact same photos as the Canon R5. It's one of Canon's best photo cameras. Instead, every single photo that I took was on the Fujifilm X100VI, and the quality was just so good. But setting that aside, I just had a lot more fun taking photos with this camera, which is something that I've missed taking photos with the more modern mirrorless cameras. So anyways, in this video, I want to talk you through some of my favorite accessories, 5 to be exact, for the Fujifilm X100VI that makes shooting with it just a better experience overall and really elevates your experience in using this camera. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into the accessories, and these aren't in any particular order, but first up we have the thumb grip. Now, this slides right into the hot shoe at the top and it goes in really easily and it sticks in there. Now, the reason that you might need this is that I personally have particularly large hands, meaning that I also have large thumbs. So if you're in the same boat without the thumb grip, so if I take this out, I find myself hitting this scroll wheel a lot whenever I'm holding the camera or taking photos with it. So back here, so this to give you a better perspective, if I'm holding the camera from here, my thumb always ends up hitting this scroll wheel. I end up changing some settings and then I have to take the photo again. So what this does is that it really provides a guard against that. So whenever I'm holding my camera, the scroll wheel is now protected, so I'm not accidentally going to hit it. But more importantly, this thumb grip here actually adds a nice anchor point on the camera, making it much better to hold and way sturdier in your hand. It's a feeling that you really need to experience for yourself to realize how big of a difference it makes. But for me, this accessory has really become essential. The one that I'm using is from a company called YC Onion, and the reason I'm using this one is that the metal black from this thumb grip matches the construction of the camera body perfectly, making it look like that it was actually made by Fujifilm, so it's not sticking out like a third-party accessory. It makes it look like it's part of the camera, which I absolutely love. Okay, so moving on to number 2, we have the shutter button. So hopefully you guys can see it right here, but it's the shutter button with the X. Now, I got this one from Amazon. It's not any particular brand, but the reason that I love it is that the construction of it is metal. It doesn't feel plasticky, it doesn't feel cheap, and similar to the thumb grip, it makes it look like it was made by Fujifilm and it's really a part of the camera. And this one, again, just screws right on. So if you purchase the X100VI, the X100V, the X100F, any of the Fujifilm compact fixed lens cameras, as far as I know, they don't really sell them with the shutter button. So you get this leaf shutter, and it's a little bit awkward to take photos with it because it's so flush with the camera and there's not really that much room for you to press the shutter, especially if you have large fingers. So this really adds to the feel of the camera, and you might feel like you don't need this accessory, but trust me, it's really cheap. It's like 15 bucks on Amazon, and it makes a huge difference when taking photos. And the reason that I really like this one is, again, it looks like it was made by Fujifilm, so it just fits right into the camera while not looking like a third-party accessory. Okay, so moving on to number 3, we have the hand grip. Now, you might not have actually noticed, but it's been on this camera throughout this entire video, and that's one of the main reasons that I like it. This hand grip is from YC Onion, and my favorite thing about it is that the texture on the hand grip right here matches the Fujifilm camera itself perfectly, so it actually looks like it's exactly part of the camera and it was made by Fujifilm. Now, this thing is amazing if you have large hands because this camera is really hard to hold for people with larger hands because of how small the body is, and it's kind of awkward to take photos with it without the hand grip. I find myself having to clutch onto the camera for dear life because I'm afraid that it's gonna slip out of my hand because of how small the stock grip is. So this really adds a lot of amazing feel to the camera when taking photos. And another thing that I really like about it is that you still have access to all the doors, so you can still access the battery door and the memory card door, as well as the side door over here, which gives you access to your headphone jack as well as your USB-C port. So my camera's struggling to focus a little bit, but there we go. And as you can see, you still have access to all the ports. And like I said, this thing looks like it was made by Fujifilm, which is my absolutely favorite part of it. And it just screws onto the camera with the quarter screw at the bottom. Very simple. It comes with the Allen key and it comes with the screws that you need to get this in. This one is from YC Onion, but again, you can go ahead and buy any one that you want. Okay, let's move on to the fourth accessory. Now, I didn't do this on purpose. I know I said these weren't in any particular order, so I didn't mean to leave this one towards the end, but this is easily my favorite accessory for the Fujifilm X100VI. And if you can only buy one accessory on this list of accessories, this is the one that you should buy. This is the Everyday Filter by PolarPro and Shortstache, and it's a mist filter with a circular polarizer built in. So you can turn the circular polarizer, and this helps eliminate harsh glares or reflections whenever you're taking photos, but it also adds a really nice black mist filter effect to all of your photos. Now, the strength on this one is a quarter strength, but it really feels like a 1/8 strength. Now, the reason that you would want one of these on your camera is that it really softens up the look of all of your photos and helps to give you that nice film aesthetic that a lot of people are seeking when they buy a Fujifilm camera. Now, the real secret sauce for why you would want this filter on your camera above anything else is that if you've ever tried changing your film simulation recipes in the Fujifilm menus and you lower your clarity, you get this annoying loading screen whenever you're taking photos. Now, in essence, what a mist filter does is that it does lower the clarity of your image, not to be confused with sharpness. Now, it does do that, meaning that you can leave your clarity setting at 0 and you don't get that weird loading screen whenever you're taking photos with the Fujifilm X100VI, 5, or F. As far as I'm concerned, they all have this issue. So avoiding that loading screen is awesome because now you don't have to wait in between taking photos, which can be huge for you not missing any moments. Now, PolarPro does sell another version of this filter, and it's just simply called the PolarPro and Shortstache Mist PL filter, and it's the exact same thing, but the only difference is that the strength on this filter is half strength versus the quarter, which feels like 1/8 strength on the Everyday filter. So if you want a super stylized film look, I would say go with the half filter. I do use this on some occasions, but if you can only get one, then I would definitely get the Everyday filter. I think it's absolutely fantastic and makes the images look way better. Okay, so moving on to the fifth and final accessory on this list. So if you're somebody that doesn't like messing with the clarity setting in your Fujifilm film recipes and you don't want a mist filter on your camera because obviously that's not for everybody, then this is the accessory for you because you're not going to be using a filter. And this is a lens hood, also from YC Onion. Now, YC Onion did not sponsor this video and didn't ask me to make any of this content. They just sent me all this stuff, but I decided to include their specific accessories in this video because they're genuinely the best that I've used for one specific reason, which I have mentioned throughout this video. The accessories look like they were made by Fujifilm, and the metal and the construction and the materials that they use match the camera exactly. They paid incredible detail to these little things, and that really makes the whole aesthetic of the camera when using these accessories a top tier experience, which is really important because you don't want your accessories to feel cheap. Anyways, this is the lens hood from YC Onion. Again, beautiful metal construction, matches the camera perfectly. And what a lens hood does is that it blocks certain glare from entering your lens whenever you're taking photos in a sunny condition. So if you're somebody that doesn't want that mist filter, I highly recommend you get this. This one has a nice cover on top, which you can use as a lens cover whenever you're traveling. But I think this lens hood looks incredibly stylish and looks really good on the camera. Now, I know that my Canon R5C refused to focus there, but anyways, let's try this again. There we go. I think the lens hood looks incredibly stylish, really cool, and is really an accessory you should consider getting if you're not going to be using a filter. Okay, so before we sign off this video, I do want to throw in a bonus accessory. Now, a lot of people don't know this when they buy the Fujifilm X100VI, 5F, etc. You get the point. by this point is that this actually doesn't come with an adapter ring for you to be able to attach lens hoods, filters, or anything like that. So if you take a look right here, this is the original ring. So if I try and unscrew this, should come out pretty easily. So this is the original ring that comes on your Fujifilm camera, and underneath it you have the lens and the threading. Now, just by itself, you can't attach any of these filters. So you'll notice that in the filter, actually in between, I have a ring, and this is the adapter for Fujifilm cameras by PolarPro. Again, you can go ahead and purchase any one that you want, but this is the adapter that I'm using. And the reason that I like this one is that a lot of them, whenever you're turning the circular polarizer on the lens against the opposite way that the adapter threads on, the adapter starts to unscrew itself. This one locks in really well and doesn't come off, and that's the reason that I'm using it. And I also think that it looks really sleek with the PolarPro filter. So again, you're free to use whichever one you want, but I highly recommend that you get one of these adapter rings because they're gonna be crucial if you plan on putting any type of accessory on the front lens. And that's it. Those are all of my favorite accessories that I use on the Fujifilm X100VI when taking photos, and it truly really elevates my experience when taking photos with this camera. And you don't have to go out and get all of them. I would suggest just get the ones that address some of the pain points that I mentioned in this video. But yeah, anyways, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one, and until then, keep creating.